Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5 Reasons Board Members Are Being Sued and Are They Covered webinar. I'm Marketing Manager Sherry Branson, and I'm now joined by the President of Kevin Davis Insurance, Kevin Davis. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Sherry, how you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
You know what? I'm doing pretty good today. I'm not happy because I'm still in this heat wave here. It's like 90 something degrees in LA, and I'm tired of the heat.
That's like Florida heat, Kevin. You're getting a taste of Florida in LA. 90s
Ah,
in October. That's unbelievable.
yeah, it is. I'm
Yeah.
tired of it. Let's move on. I want to see the fall and some winter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so tired of the heat.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I think everybody would love to see cooler weather. I think we're getting some kind of a cold front this weekend, so they're saying the whole country is going to cool off a little bit. So fingers crossed, it'll feel like fall eventually.
I hope so.
Well, stay cool out there, Kevin. And Kevin, we have a lot of people joining us from all over the country today. Welcome, everybody. And I did want to mention a couple of things. If you have any questions during today's webinar, we have a Q&A box on the screen. You can type your questions into the box. And if we have time at the end of the webinar, we'll answer your questions. And if you'd like a copy of today's PowerPoint, please send me an email to sherry.branson@amwins.com. That's my first name, Branson@amwins.com. I can send you a copy of the PowerPoint, and I record all of the webinars so you can listen to it again. If you'd like a recording, I can also email you a recording as well. I've received a request for that already, so I'll be sending that one out tomorrow. So Kevin, we have a great topic to talk about today. We're going to talk about, board members and why they're being sued. And if you could take a second to read the disclaimer that we have up on the screen right now, please take a second to read that. And then we're going to talk about our goal. And what are we trying to accomplish today, Kevin? What's our main focus?
You know what? What it boils down to, it's board members get sued. They will get sued. We're going to talk about why they get sued. What are the 5 reasons why? And as we talk about these 5 reasons why, you will see and you will really understand what's going on out there and why they have. And we want to talk about coverages. You know, is there coverage? Because certain times there may be no coverage under any liability policy. So we'll talk about it. And hopefully by the time this is over, everybody get a chance. And I'm glad we have homeowner board members here because we are fortunate that a lot of our clients or retail agents out there are inviting their board members and property managers to these meetings because this impacts them. This is about them and why they are being sued. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Yes, I did receive a couple of requests before the webinar asking if they could invite their customers, if brokers could invite their customers. And I said, yes, of course. So if you ever want to invite board members to our future webinars, feel free to do that. The more, the merrier. Great. So we're going to talk about, the 5 main things that we're seeing that are causing these lawsuits and for claims to happen. So the first one that we're going to talk about is one that we've discussed a few times before. It's breach of fiduciary duty. Now, this is a pretty broad category, right, Kevin?
Exactly. Now, when we talk about breach of fiduciary duty, this is what we're talking about. It is the board's members' job, okay, to maintain the association's property, collect assessments, and enforce the rules of association. However, they have to do it in good faith, use reasonable care, and act in the benefit of the community association and its members. That's their job. The problem comes into play is that when they don't do that, when they don't do it with reasonable care or in good faith. And what I mean by that, that means decisions are arbitrary, or they don't gather information before making decisions. They don't go out and use experts, or they even go out and act, even though they'll go out and act outside of their authority. So these kind of things we're talking about what means breach of fiduciary duty.
Absolutely. And a perfect example of that, Kevin, would be during COVID, correct? The board members had to make all kinds of decisions regarding the gym, whether to open or close the gym, the pool areas, the common areas, that kind of a thing, and to sanitize things and disinfect things. They had much more on their shoulders than they've ever had before.
And exactly, because what we add in the health and welfare of the association, which is something unique to breach of fiduciary duty. So now they have this new responsibility on top of the collected assessments and reasonable care. So something new there. COVID added something new to them So we now see breach of fiduciary duty claims. It goes into a whole new area because of Google.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, question is where we get coverage from. Okay. Now, this is an important thing. Now, whenever you hear the word breach of fiduciary duty, you automatically think of a D&O policy. So your number one policy when you hear the word breach of fiduciary duty is your D&O policy. However, D&O won't respond to every situation. For example, okay, if you have a roof and your roof's leaking and it's leaking to my unit, and all of a sudden my really expensive paintings I just purchased 2 days ago have been destroyed, I'm suing the board for breach of fiduciary duty. It does not pick up, D&O does not pick up claims based on property damage or bodily injury. And the reason why, because that's covered under general liability policy. So what we're talking about now is that if you, just because you see the word breach of fiduciary duty, doesn't mean it's a D&O claim. I will put my D&O carrier on notice, number one. Let them come back to you and say yes or no. But also, you may want to put your general liability carrier on notice also if it is a claim for property damage or bodily injury. If somebody gets hurt on a premises and the board is negligent because they didn't trim the trees properly or maintain the sidewalks or the garage or the balconies, and they sue breach of fiduciary duty, it doesn't mean it's a D&O claim. It goes into the general liability claim. So you got to be careful. Sometimes it can be either one or the other. And you think it's going to be a big claim. Somebody drowning, your umbrella might want to be involved also.
Absolutely. So basically, what I'm hearing you say from that, and what we're going to talk about a little bit later, is when in doubt, you don't know where the coverage may come from, correct? It could be the GL, it could be the D&O. You just don't know. But submit, if there's a situation, just submit it to as many carriers as possible, just to see if there is coverage and where the coverage is.
Yeah, it's not up to you to decide where it goes. I mean, it's up to you to decide, but be careful, because the decision you make may negate coverage under because of late reporting or other issues.
So submit it as soon as possible. As soon as you're aware of the situation, submit it as fast as you can.
Exactly. All right, let's go to number 2.
Okay, number 2 is a failure to maintain. And this is, a big problem. I know at a lot of older condo buildings and, with buildings getting older and roofs in bad shape and storms, a lot of the storms that we've had here in Florida and in other states as well. So let's talk about this a little bit, Kevin.
Sure. When we talk about failure to maintain, the community associations is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the common spaces. When they fail to do that, homeowners sue. Perfect example of that is Surfside a couple of years ago.
Yes.
The job of the board is to maintain that property. They failed to maintain the property. They failed to maintain the park, everything. I mean, it's complete failure there. When you have complete failure like that, you're going to see it. Where now a lot of boards are aware that they have a job to maintain the common area. And the worst case scenario is what happened in Surfside. We never would have believed in 100 years that it can reach that conclusion, that you can actually have a building that collapse because of poor maintenance. We've seen it. So now a lot of associations are getting reserve studies, are getting experts come in and take a look. They're looking at the garages, they're looking at the balconies, because those are things that really have the issues over time. And they are maintaining them. The problem is that when you talk about failure to maintain, okay, the liability policies, the D&O, general liability umbrella, they're not maintenance contracts, okay? So some people think that just because there is property damage doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to be a covered loss. So a lot of board of directors think that failure to maintain equals GL, D&O, umbrella losses. It may, but it may not. Perfect example. If Surfside collapsed, once that Surfside collapsed, it was a claim. However, if I came in and saw all the damage, that the faulty wiring, the cracks, the damages, if I went in there and all of a sudden, and I lived there, I'm going to sue the board for failure to maintain. be questionable would coverage be provided. Now, let's look at the DNO. It would not be provided under the DNO because DNO will exclude property damage. Is a big exclusion, absolute exclusion for property damage. Now, on the general liability policy, the number one thing is it has to be an occurrence. When did the date occur? Now, we know when Surfside fell, that was the occurrence date. But we're talking about a building that we're looking at, and they failed to maintain the common areas. There's no occurrence. It's happened over a period of time. So there may not be coverage under the situation. So today, what we're learning today, failure to maintain is very important to maintain your buildings. You must get a reserve study. You must maintain the reserves, and you must spend the reserve. So no reason collecting reserve money if you don't do anything with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not there for decoration, Kevin. It's there to be used. And many of these older buildings really need to be updated and they need to be fixed. And yeah, that's just an unbelievable situation that occurred, dramatic situation that occurred, and a sad situation. And it just was like a huge wake-up call, I think, for many, many board members, many associations, and many property managers as well.
And for insurance agents, it's a wake-up call for us also to find out where there's coverage and where there's not coverage. The DNO, there may not be coverage because of the absolute property damage exclusion. The GL may not be not coverage because unless there's a current date, unless we know that that building came down, because we have a lot of associations out there that fail to maintain the balconies, the garages, the fences, okay? And you're ready to sue because my unit value has diminished. Instead of being worth 300,000, now it's only worth 290 or whatever it is, okay? But what happens is you need an occurrence date. So this is that one area where it's complicated in terms of coverage. Complicated.
Very complicated, very complicated.
Yes.
Thank you. And I did want to take a second to mention again that if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, you can send me an email to sherry.branson@amwins.com. And if you'd like to listen to the recording again, let me know as well. And if you have questions at the end, we have the Q&A box for you to type in your questions. And now, Kevin, we're going to move on to number 3, which is selective enforcement of the association documents. And that's basically the CC&Rs, right, Kevin, which is the rules that every association abides by, and many homeowners don't read. We know that they don't read them. I know I looked through mine really quickly and I didn't read the whole package because it was a long document. So, you know, not everybody's aware of what the documents say, etc. So what can happen in this situation?
Yeah, we're talking about with this, the board has responsibility to enforce the association rules as outlined association documents. The problem, as you just said, most people move into the association and never reading the documents. So they spend a lot of their time enforcing the rules and people getting upset and challenging their authority. You as a homeowner, Sherry, who did not read the rules, you just admitted.
I read some of them. I read some of them.
You get upset because you're working from home now. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They put a pickleball court up and it's making way too much noise. Okay? Way too much noise, so you can't get your work done. And so you're going to complain to the board saying the board's in violation of pickleball court because they didn't do due process. They didn't get the votes necessary. So once you stop that pickleball court immediately, or the top lot, you know, you build a top lot there for the kids to run around everything. All that stuff was great, wonderful, until you're working at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you realize there's way too much noise out there. So you're saying that the board's in violation because they didn't have the authority, you know, to build that. They have the authority to have the kids out there. And you can do that with anything. You talk about the pool hours, okay? Well, you have pool hours till 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Well, I want to go in the pool 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't have the authority to tell me that I can't go at 2 o'clock in the morning. I know they're in the documents, or you say they're in the documents, but I'm challenging those documents. I'm challenging your authority to act.
Absolutely. And one area that really comes to mind, Kevin, is that we've talked about before is comfort pets. You know, you could live in a condo association that says no pets allowed, but somebody has a large dog that's a comfort pet, and then the neighbor next door who wanted to get a dog can't get a dog. So that could become an issue.
that becomes an issue. I mean, you see so many issues where people are ignoring the rules of their association because it doesn't benefit them. They think because they live in a single family home their entire life, they can do whatever they want to do, and you can't do that in association. There are rules that you have to comply.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And many people don't know what they are, which is
Which makes it harder. That's
until they find it until it's too late and they get a letter saying, you can't do this with your
true.
garbage cans or something like that. Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So let's talk about coverage. This is the interesting thing because when you have a selective enforcement situation, you're talking about not a GL at all, because GL, general liability, picks up bodily injury and property damage. You're not talking about that now. You're talking about the people who live there is challenging the board's authority. So when you're challenging the board's authority, you're talking about a DNO because that's what your DNO is for. It is a wrongful act as opposed to a bodily injury, slip and fall, or anything like that. So the board committed a wrongful act because they're allowing me to swim 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the morning. They're allowing me to have a basketball court out. They're allowing me to have a pet. So I am suing them, challenging them. Now, that means we're talking about the DNO policy. However, this is the tricky part. You have to make sure your DNO policy picks up claims for non-money damages.
Yes, Kevin, that's a good point because those are most of the claims that we see in associations, correct? Non-money claims where people just want to be able to get that dog or put
Yep,
the flag out or put the basketball court in the driveway, that kind of a thing.
exactly. When you look at your DNO policy, they will say this policy pays claims for damages. If it says pays claim for damages, you do not have a DNO contract or pick up selective enforcement.
Okay.
Okay, because you say you were claim for damages. If I'm suing because I want to be able to go swimming at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm not asking for $100 million. I'm not asking for $1. I'm asking for the judge to say the board's incompetent and they should allow me to do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the most important coverage out there, just like failure to maintain. You may have no coverage failure to maintain. You may have no coverage on selective enforcement because your policy says will provide claims for damages, suit for damages. A lot of these claims under this one area, you're not suing for damages. You're suing because I want to do what I want to do because I should be able to, regardless of the rules.
Mm-hmm. The claims are very personal. They're very personal.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you attack me this way? How dare
Mm-hmm.
you treat me this way? You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have rights. I know what I'm doing. I know. I read the document for your documents. You don't have the authority to act on those documents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about coverage, DNO claim, but you have to have the right DNO policy to respond to claim for monetary damages. So if they are suing for millions of dollars and non-monetary damage, they're suing because they want to go swimming at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you say I can't.
Sure. Why are they locking up the pool? Why do you have to lock up that
Yeah.
pool at 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
Why
Or
isn't
the
it open?
pickleball course at 5 o'clock because it makes too much noise. I want to play pickleball at 6 p.m. because I'm working
Mm-hmm.
till 5.
Yeah, we have pickleball leagues in my neighborhood right now. They're up and running all
Everybody.
the time. People love pickleball. It's
Oh,
funny. Okay, great. Well, that talks about the selective enforcement of the association documents. And again, if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, feel free to send me an email to sherry.branson@amwins.com. And now we're going to talk about number 4, Kevin, which is mismanagement of association funds. Now, the homeowners association, they're overseeing handling money, used to pay for expenses, etc. But there's a lot of risk there, a lot of risk. So let's talk about that a little bit.
sure. They have a job to collect assessments and fund the reserve. When they don't collect assessments and fund the reserve, they will be sued. And they get sued a lot. When you talk about mismanagement of funds, there's 2 areas. Mismanagement of funds, where you actually may have hired somebody to replace all the roofs, and all of a sudden you hired the wrong person because they don't have the expertise, they don't have the knowledge. They double charge you, triple charge you. All of a sudden you get sued for waste of corporate assets. Okay. The main one that I'm more concerned about is theft of funds, mismanagement in terms of theft. Where you go to the bank to pay the roofer and you find out the money's gone. Somebody embezzled the money. and you know who it is. You know if it was, board member or property manager. Theft of funds and mismanagement of funds is a problem. Theft of funds is a huge problem today, especially in areas of like social engineering, where somebody got tricked into money, or cyber. It's so much involved in that money side that it can be really tricky for associations. So what you have to do is to make sure you have a crime policy. We talk about crime for the theft of funds, and we talk about a D&O for the mismanagement of funds. I've been sued now because I mismanaged the reserve account. Yeah, I have $100,000 net reserve account, and I really didn't use it the way it should be used, so I'm being sued for it. Okay, that's mismanagement. But if I go to and 100,000 reserve account is missing, it is theft. And now you have to determine who stole it, how was it stolen, and under what condition it was stolen. That's why you need a crime policy. So here, a crime policy that includes social engineering, computer fraud, wire transfer fraud, employee dishonesty, and deposit forgery. Deposit forgery is very important because what's happening right now is you have thieves that go into homeowner associations and steal all the checks out of the mailbox, and they whitewash the checks and they start cashing. Because we don't do monthly reconciliation of checks, guess what's happening? They don't get caught. The money gets stolen. So you have to be careful.
Very careful, very careful. And the social engineering, that's when somebody sends an email to you and they pretend to be a vendor, maybe. It could be maybe the landscaping company saying, we've changed our checking account. Can you deposit into this account? And then you deposit into what you think is the new account because it looks like a legitimate email. But basically it's a fake account, and it's somebody tricking you into depositing the money. And I had a board member in Florida tell me a few years back that a situation happened where somebody pretended to be a vendor and they tried to get money from the association. So, but luckily they caught it. They caught it in time. So there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different theft that's going on, and cyber theft is getting even much more complicated and sophisticated as well. Okay, so mismanagement of association funds. Okay, and now we're going to move on to number 5, which is reputational damage. Now, we haven't spoken about this before, Kevin. This is kind of a new area that we're talking about today. Can you explain what this is? Tell people a little bit about it.
This is a tough one for us as insurance providers because we have no idea the damages. These things, the damages can be anywhere from 100,000, 10,000, 100,000 to $3 to $5 million. I live in a community association, and you harmed my reputation. You libeled me, put something in the paper, you slandered me, you defamed me by making me appear to be somebody who I'm not. You discriminated against me, you harassed me, you bullied me, all these things that we hear about in community associations. Now, guess what I'm going to do? Because you've done this, you created undue harm for me. As well as undue harm, I'm suing you for millions and millions of dollars. Okay? Wow. And we've seen it.
Wow, incredible. Okay, so this is somebody's slander, basically, right? That's basically what we call slander. And what comes to mind just on my Facebook page for my neighborhood, people are putting up pictures of people walking their dogs and not picking up the dog's stuff. And and I'm thinking, oh boy, that's really not a good idea to put a video of somebody walking their dog on Facebook for the whole world.
And that's perfect what we're talking about. But now all of a sudden they can say, I suffered reputational harm. I want damages because you put this out there, and now it's impacting my job, it's impacting my health, it's impacting everything. This is that one area that, again, it is a tough area because, we live in a 50-50 world anyway. So half the people in our community association, we don't like anyway, because we don't like what one half is doing, we don't like the other half. And so we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing. We're creating problems. One area that we heard about is elections. Just like election problems in the United States, HOAs have huge election problems. So if I'm running for office, I'm running against you, Sherry, guess what? I'm not going to say nice things about you. I'm going to defame you. I'm going to write things in the paper. I'm going to lie to you, okay? I'm going to do all the things in there. And what are you going to do? You're going to do the same thing back to me. What's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen though now, if I lose, I'm going to sue you for reputational harm. Okay. I'm going to say that you put all this information there and I can't work anymore, you know?
Right.
And because I have, 30 years left of work available, and I with 30 years, I'll make $50 million. I'm suing you for the $50 million.
Mm.
And the way it works is this. The first thing they do is look at the umbrella policy. And we're talking about the coverages here. This covers everything. You're talking about your D&O, your liability, and your umbrella. So the first thing they'll do is look at your umbrella policy and say, oh, you have a $25 million umbrella policy, huh? Well, guess what? We're suing for $25 million because you defamed that person to the point where they can't even get a bed anymore. They created a huge problem. Reputational damages is a really difficult area that we're seeing a lot of, and it's hard to figure out where we go with it. So this is a challenging one.
Very
Yeah.
challenging. Yeah, especially with all the social media, talking about
Yes.
shaming people. They're going to do it on Facebook. They're going to do it on Twitter.
Mhm.
They're just going to, if there's an election, a really, close election, or people are saying mean things about each other. I mean, if they're doing it publicly, they're doing it publicly on the social media pages. So that makes it much more complicated because that's hard to control. It's hard to control that situation.
And it gets worse, and it gets worse and worse because the things that they will say on Facebook, they won't say to somebody's face, but they
Right,
really will
right.
say
That's true. Yeah.
they'll all kind of names and say they are pedophiles, that they sleeping with so and so, and I mean
Yeah.
we've seen. And again, if you are a board member listening to this, you know the stories, you heard it,
Yeah.
you know it.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's a true story, right? That one you just
yes,
mentioned. That's a true example of a really nasty election.
yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
It costs $3 million. That one, 3 million. Yeah,
3
yeah.
million.
Mhm.
Incredible, incredible. And as the umbrellas go higher, then if they're aware of how high the umbrella goes, you might say, hey, they have a 20
Go
million,
for it.
25, yeah,
Yeah.
go for it. They have a 25 million umbrella. Hmm.
Because the lawyer don't get when a claim comes in, okay, or before that claim is, the lawyer is going to ask for all copies of the policy. They're going to see that there's a umbrella policy out there for X number of dollars, and they're going to say, okay, this is what we're going for. We're going for the big one because the board was um, negligent because of the way they allowed this to happen. They allowed it to occur. They allowed Facebook to be defaming these individuals. They allowed it to happen. So this is a tough one. This is a tough
It
one.
is a
So
tough
just
one.
make again, if you have the coverage, D&O, GL, umbrella, have them all because it will overlap. Some may be just purely a GL. Most of it is probably covered under general liability, but it can leak over to the D&O when we talk about things like discrimination because
Mhm.
to discriminate is not is illegal. But anyway, we don't have to go there. We'll
Well,
start
great.
going to the weeds of this stuff.
We could go for a
Just
couple hours, Kevin.
yes, yes. So let's make sure you have the D&O, the umbrella, and the general liability policy. You should be okay. So
Hmm. Great.
there we go, guys. We did the 5 things that's going to create problems for
Yes, the top 5 things. And now we're going to offer some really valuable advice on how to avoid worrying about the D&O liability claims, Kevin. So what
you.
advice and tips would you like to give everybody today?
Okay, so let's start with the first one. We have treat it as a business. Okay, nothing more important than treat this as a business. Most people who are on board of directors of condominiums, they treat it as a hobby. They treat it because it's fun. They think they're going to be with their neighbors. And they're going to. They have to understand if you handle 100 units and each unit is worth $100,000, you have a $10 million corporation that you're responsible for. So you got to make sure you do the job correctly and treat it by treating it as a business. Understand the basic responsibilities of a community association board members. You got to do that. You have to be able to understand that your job is to enforce the rules, to collect assessments, and to maintain the property. That's it. If you do that, you should be a pretty good, even if you're sued. All you got to do is go back and say, listen, I did my job to the best of I used reasonable care, and I acted in the best interest of the association. And guess what? you shouldn't have anything to worry about because you have insurance to back you up.
Absolutely.
Use help. We have a risk management hotline, but use help. Use outside experts. Have people out that you know, because when something happens, you want to blame them. You want to say, listen, the lawyer told me this, the property manager told me this, my landscaper told me this. That way you're able to walk away. If you think it's a claim, it probably is a claim, and make sure you submit it to the carriers you think should be submitted to. If you think it should submit it to the GL, DNO, submit it. Don't worry about it because it'll save you a little headache towards the end. Yeah, the next one is report it to all carriers, and then use a specialized community association insurance product, not just DNO. Make sure it's an insurance product. Got to have a DNO policy that's community association specialist, because again, we talked about it before. If it's a claim for damages, it's not covered. You know, the DNO policy we have is a claim for damages and non-monetary damage. You have to do it.
So be
those
aware
are
of what type of DNO you
have,
what type of
yes.
DNO policy you have. Absolutely. Okay, these are some great tips. Again, if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, I'll give my email one last time, sherry.branson@amwins.com. So this is great information, valuable information, which will help board members and brokers that they can share with their customers. And now we're going to talk about the risk management helpline that Kevin just mentioned. The phone number is up on the screen. It's basically a free helpline. It's 1 hour of free advice provided by the law firm of Cole, Scott, and Cassane, and it's open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, except for holidays. And the phone number is up on the screen. It's 855-548-8656. And it's basically available to any current travelers insured with community association management liability coverage. So this is a great resource, a great tool for you to share with your board members, and for board members to have. And if they have any questions and they think something might be a claim, or you have a concern about something, you can always call this helpline and get great advice. So this is the risk management helpline. And now we're going to move on to the Q&A section. Oh, let's see, we have one more thing to mention. We added this in, Kevin. This is very exciting news. Kevin is a co-host of a podcast called Common Sense for Common Areas. He does it in conjunction with Robert Nordland, Julie Adaman, and basically it focuses on all the current issues and the trends that are facing community associations right now. You can stream it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. So Kevin, great job on the podcast. I know you're having a lot of fun doing
I have to say that I do it once a month, and basically this whole topic came out of that. So in the next couple of weeks, the podcast will address these same issues, but more of a discussion about the fine. So once I did that, I said, you know what? I'm going to have to do one and talk about the coverages, because we didn't get to talk about coverage at all. We just talked about the 5 issues, but the coverages are really important right now. They really are, because we want to make sure that when these things do happen, you have adequate protection.
Absolutely. The knowledge and the adequate protection to make sure your association is safe. Absolutely. And now we're going to get to the Q&A portion. We have a lot of questions that have come in, Kevin. So we'll see how much time we have to get to the questions. Okay, we have one. Oh, Cynthia would like a copy of the slides. Absolutely, Cynthia. I see a few emails have come in, so you may have sent me an email already. But my email is sherry.branson@amwins.com. And okay, I'll type my email address in. Laura would like my email address typed in, so I will do that in a minute. Okay, here's a question from Lisa. Thank you, Lisa, from Lisa Dennis. If you know that a board member or a board president is doing selective enforcement and you have pointed this out on numerous occasions and they turn it around on you, the management company that you're not doing your job, how can a management company protect themselves?
Document. When the whole, again, this is the problem with the community associations, from a property manager's point of view, or a lawyer, or from another board member. Somebody's always going to say, because every association has one person they don't like. Okay, the one that's a pain in the butt that gets on everybody's nerves, and they will prosecute them if their car is parked in the wrong spot or they have a pet. They're going to challenge that person. They're going to have that person's car towed away, and then they'll come back and say, "Guess what? You can tow away the other person's car on the other side of the complex. You picked on me," and reputational harm. That's where reputational harm comes from, because now all of a sudden you damaged me. You treated me differently than you treated anybody else. And you're harassing me, you're bullying me, you hear all these different terms. So all you can do is document, document, document. But when the claim comes in, you want to make sure that you are not held liable.
Okay, thank you for that advice, Kevin. Thank you for your question. And now I have a question here. Relative to association funds, can you discuss cyber insurance?
Oh, sure, quickly enough. When we talk about cyber insurance, okay, when there's a theft of association funds, it's either going to be from an employee or an outsider. Okay, so from an employee, you're talking about the management company, a manager, a treasurer, board member, an employee having access to the funds. So if it's from a non-employee, that's usually cyber related. What it means is, number one, you have social engineering. And social engineering means I just tricked you to give me the money. Sherry mentioned earlier is that I hacked the landscaper. So now the landscapers, all their email addresses. So what I do is go out to all the buildings and say, guess what? Pay now to avoid any late fees. By the way, here's our new bank and routing number. Once you hear the word new bank and routing number, it's probably a fake. But what happens is I send it out to all the buildings. All of a sudden, I start getting money in, and it's a windfall for me. So that is a cyber loss. Another cyber loss is that I send you an email that says, hey, guess what? You just won big, or you just lost big. And you click on it. Now all of a sudden I'm inside your system. That is wire transfer fraud once you get the money. So on the cyber side, when you talk about loss of funds, we're talking about social engineering, wire transfer fraud, um, computer theft. Those are the main coverages there. That's cyber that you have to be concerned about. I guess what I'm going to have to do in a couple of months, we have to do another cyber. We haven't done cyber.
We probably should. Yeah, we haven't done cyber in a little bit. Yeah, and a lot of people ask questions about it. Absolutely. And then we have another question from Sharon Heritage. Thank you, Sharon, so much for sending in your question. And at the end, everybody, I'm going to mention the spelling of my email address so everybody can hear it, and I'll type it into the box as well. Okay, our D&O exclusion has an exclusion for director on director lawsuits. What option is left for a director that feels the majority of the board has breached their fiduciary duty? The president is using his wife's employer's company for large association projects. Oh, we talked about something similar to this.
Yeah, exactly. That's breach of fiduciary duty. And again, your job as a board of directors act in the best interest of reasonable care. Okay, reasonable care and good faith. If you don't act with reasonable care and good faith, that is right off the bat a breach of fiduciary duty. Your job, if you are a board member, is to make sure you stand up for that reasonable care. And you have to say that, we do not agree that you're using your brother-in-law or somebody because we haven't vetted the situation. We haven't vetted the person properly. And it's our job to do that. If we don't, we breach our fiduciary duty. So my response to you is to have them get a copy of this breach of fiduciary duty, make sure they understand it, because if they are purposely doing something, acting outside of good faith, if they're purposely doing these things, they may not be covered. Okay? They may not be covered. If they're doing something intentional, okay, that's grossly negligent, there may not be any coverage for them. So now, if you spell out that you disagree with this person is doing, and guess what? When you're being sued, then the likelihood of coverage for you is greater. So.
Okay. Thank you. And now Jennifer has a question, Jennifer Juxtrat. As we all know, it's not likely the current board who has neglected to properly fund the reserves. How do homeowners hold past board members accountable for poor decisions and not the current volunteers who are just stuck with the consequences of the past board's decisions?
Well, you have to hold them responsible. You, at the new board, is your responsibility to handle it. And the way you handle it is by saying, old board, you failed to fund the reserve properly. As a result, we are in trouble right now. So we're going to hold you responsible. When Surfside goes down, guess what? Everybody's being sued. The current board, the past board, because the past board did not reserve properly. They didn't do the job. So you have situations today where you see the current board suing the past board. And if you have the right D&O policy, you do get defense for both boards.
Okay. Okay, great. And do you have time for one more, Kevin?
Sure, let's go. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, Sharon has another question. Sharon Heritage, thank you very much. Following the question of breach of fiduciary duty, could the director, the president, claim reputational damage against the director claiming they breached their fiduciary duty? So she's saying that if the president is accused of breaching fiduciary duty by another director, could let's see, follow the question.
Yeah, that's Sherry. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Okay, when you talk about reputational harm, reputational damages, there have to be something. There have to be something that the board did something. If I accuse the president of not acting in good faith and not using reasonable care, either he did or he didn't. If he didn't use reasonable care, then there's no harm. There's no harm done. Now, if I accuse him of not being reasonable, not acting in good faith, and he did, and it shows that he did, now there's reputational harm.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Reputational harm comes in when you accuse me of something that's not true. When you say it's not, how dare you? I've done a good job. I've done the best job I can do. I use reasonable care. I use good faith and good judgment. How dare you treat me this way? So either you did or you didn't. Simple as that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Great. I'm looking through the other questions, Kevin, and I don't see a lot of people asking for the slides. Let's see, Lisa. Okay, Lisa added an addition to her original question. Okay, I think we answered that already. Okay, great. Yeah, I think that's it. So I'm going to type in my email, everybody, and I'll spell it out for you. It's SHERRY.Branson, BRANSON @amwins.com. So I'll type it right now, and then you'll all see it. And again, if you'd like the slides, if you'd like to listen to the recording again, let me know. I'm going to send it out right now. It should be out there. And we've got a couple of raised hands. Do you want to keep going, Kevin, or should I have people email the questions in?
Yeah, this was a challenging topic for a lot of people. So go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. She raised her hand, but I don't see a question here. Okay. Okay. Oh, I don't see any questions. So.
Okay. Listen, if you have any questions, just email either one of us. We'd be glad to help you out.
Yes, if you have additional questions, send your email in, and we're happy to give you a call or send you an email answering your question. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. It was a great webinar, lots of great information, and people thanked us for the information, Kevin, by the way. And I did want to mention on November 9th, I'm doing a very special webinar with a special guest. Travelers Claim Counsel Elizabeth Hoff is my guest, and we're going to talk about D&O claim trends that she's seeing in 2023. So thank you, Kevin. Thank you for a great webinar, and thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Take care.